Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hot Takes Discussion. If you can hear me, let me know because I had a mic issue earlier and I'm not sure if I resolved it. Sorry for the double countdown, by the way. I forgot I had the video clips looping. So we have a lot of cool things to talk about here. The first is 100 subscribers. Huzzah, right? That's really cool. Very excited about that. And with 100 subscribers, we have some new announcements coming up. So next week, I think I will be starting to stream with guests. And I have one lined up for next week and one lined up for the week after that. I haven't gotten any concrete days or times yet, so I can't really tell you when that's going to be. But I think the one next week is going to be either Friday or Saturday night. And this is probably not going to be a weekly occurrence. I don't have any concrete plans for anything. Yes. Thank you, Todd, for the celebratory emojis. I don't know what I'm going to do with the streaming. I think I'm going to call it shooting the shit with, and then whoever the guest is. I don't know. We'll see. So in other news, I finally finished book 2 of my series, and arcs have gone out, and it's super awesome. And I wish I could show you the cover art, but I have to wait for the cover reveal. And it's not completely done yet, so hopefully soon. I was thinking I might get it today. I haven't gotten it yet, so hopefully tomorrow it's ready for tomorrow, because that would be awesome. So before we get into some more lengthier topics, I guess let's have a quick book update. So right now I am on page 360 out of 789 of Ship of Destiny, which is the third book in the Live Ship Traders series. And it's really good, but I've been reading it really slowly. I've just been really busy. But what's next on the docket after that book? Well, of course, I could jump right into Fool's Errand, also by Robin Hobb, which is the Tawny Man trilogy. But I think I'm going to take a break from Hobb for a little bit. Not that I'm not enjoying it, but I would just like to vary things up a little bit. Usually a binge read series, but I'm finding that after 3 of these long books, I'm ready for just something maybe a little faster paced. So I have a few options, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. But a new book that I did buy, courtesy of another stream, is Empire in Black and Gold by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I've heard a lot of good things about this, but it's also a long series, so I don't know that I want to start it. Other options are, this is Arisen. I found this on another YouTuber's channel. It's a zombie apocalypse series, and I don't know. It seems like it's a long series, but short, so we'll see. And then I will probably also read the second Duck and Dyer and T.A. Bruno's In the Orbit of Sirens. So I think that's catching everyone up on my book reading stuff. So let me set up. I want to go over this article I found, if I can. need to share my screen here. And we want to share that. All right. Let me separate my windows here. So we last time I did this, I talked about the Brandon Sanderson article, and we went over how really stupid and bad that was. It's pretty fun time. I figured I would go over another topic that I keep seeing displayed a lot, and also to me, kind of equally annoying. There. Now everything is set up well. So this is we should no longer separate the art from the artist. This is advocating for why we shouldn't separate art from artist. So let's go through this real quick. It's not that long of an article, but I have some thoughts. So I'll just read parts of it. I'll probably read the whole thing. It's not really that long, and then respond. And it's Friday night, so I don't anticipate many people showing up here. But I did want to talk about this because it's it's kind of a hot topic, and it's always making the rounds ever since J.K. Rowling started posting on Twitter about her political and personal views, and it's a topic that I find to be incredibly hypocritical, as we'll see. So my phone is going off, and I forgot I had it in my pocket. So let me just turn off the vibrating, because that can be annoying. All right. So this article is on berkeleybeacon.com. Honestly, I've never heard of the website. I have no idea if it says Berkeley, so you can make the assumption that it's associated, but who knows? And I didn't do any research on it, and I don't really care if it's a legitimate site or not. I just mostly want to talk about the concepts the article really puts forth, in my opinion on it. So let me get a drink real quick, and we'll continue. So this is by Addie Winter, and we'll just get into it. I don't know who Addie Winter is, but I don't know. I don't know the site. I don't know the author, but I found the article pretty interesting. So it starts off: "I'm just separating the art from the artist" is a phrase usually heard in defense of criticism of a certain artist that has fallen under the scrutiny of the public eye. But is this concept constructive or possible? Consumers need to readdress why they take issue with an artist's behavior and if their artwork necessarily reinforces said behavior. Engaging critically with art and considering context eliminates the need to separate the art from the artist. So that's the first paragraph, and then they go on to disagree or argue with it, which is interesting because at first when I started reading this, I was 100% on board. So now you kind of know my opinion on things, but I'll explain more as we go. So it says, when consuming a work of art made by an artist you disagree with, it's important to analyze the era they existed in. Shakespearean and literary historian Stephen Greenblatt's literary theory of new historicism presents a good argument for interacting with problematic artists. His theory contends that artists are a product of their time. He isn't absolving them, rather he claims that art exists within societal confines, not just the artist's mind. From a literary perspective, when applying Greenblatt's theory to Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita, one might consider the novel's lack of objective morals to be influenced by the mid-century postmodernist literary movement. Utilizing this framework guides us to a more complex and highbrow understanding. Engaging critically with ideas and concepts you disagree with does not equal endorsement. Rather, it allows us to fundamentally understand how not to make the same mistakes. Here's the thing. Yes, the era is super, super important. One moment. I'm just going to check one thing on YouTube. I just want to make sure, because I want to put this on my channel, but I forgot to double check if the mic is recording.
Double check.
Okay, it's working. Good. Because I forgot to do a check before I started. And it would not be the first time that I did that. All right, so let's continue. We need to avoid presentism, the application of modern concepts and perspectives to historical works and people, and instead bear in mind the historical and cultural contexts in works of art. This is obviously easier said than done. All right, this next paragraph really is the meat of the article that I want to respond to. For instance, the separating the art from the artist argument is often applied to J.K. Rowling, as her transphobic beliefs weren't revealed until over a decade after the first book's release. However, her transphobic beliefs are reflected in the Harry Potter series. The character of Rita Skeeter, introduced in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, is described with characteristics that imply that she is trans. Additionally, Rowling contributes to the negative stereotyping of HIV/AIDS, admitting that the werewolves were a metaphor for the crisis, then depicting them as either child predators via Fenrir Greyback or oppressed via Remus Lupin. I have a lot of things that I could say about Rowling, but let's focus on separating the art from the artist. Firstly, I have no problem with basically anything that an artist does when it comes to their personal beliefs and stuff. I don't care. I'm all about the art. I don't understand this you need to know where the art is coming from thing that's kind of been a modern trend, and because all art across all mediums generally touch somebody who's a problem, right? And so to try and police or research everything you do, I mean, let's talk about this book, for example. This book is written by Robin Hobb. Now, as far as I know, everything Robin Hobb has done has been great and well received. I don't think she's done anything controversial, but I'm a new fan, and so I don't know much about her. But I never hear anyone reference her in a negative light. That being said, do we only worry about the writer when it comes to a physical book? What about the publisher is Del Rey Books, it looks like. What if they were problematic? Then do we not read this book? Or do we only read the digital version? But that's still published through the publisher. I don't know. What if the CEO of the publishing company came out and did some horrendously vile things? Then do we not read the book? I don't know. Because I would read it either way if it was a bad publisher or a bad author, if the book was interesting to me. For me, I'm very selfish. If it's going to interest me, I want to consume it. Now, as far as Rita Skeeter being trans, I've read The Goblet of Fire many times. I never remember that ever being a hint. The movies, doesn't seem like she's trans in the movies. I don't know. To me, there was no hint, but I don't know. The werewolves is an interesting conversation because she apparently, according to this article, admits that the werewolves were a metaphor of AIDS. And if that's true, then yeah, I guess there's some problems there with the examples cited. But overall, I just don't care. I know that's really bad to say, but it's true. Everything we touch goes through someone that's terrible, right? People don't like Harvey Weinstein, right? I don't either. Let's make that very clear. But are you going to look up every single movie he's been a part of? And keep in mind, he's been a part of a ton of movies and I think multiple production companies. So he's kind of everywhere. Are you then going to research every movie that he has like contributed to and not watch it? Then that's another problem because there's so many people who aren't rich that worked on the movies. That doesn't really matter for old movies, I don't think. But like, let's say a movie was coming out tomorrow and Harvey Weinstein worked on it. Well, if you don't watch it, sure, you're hurting Weinstein, but then you're also really hurting all the smaller people that worked on that movie. So who's going to be hurt more? Certainly not the guy who's already rich. It's going to be the little guys that get fired, right? So that's another thing to consider here with movies anyway. And video games is another one with the same thing. So let's just continue with the article here. We could ignore these instances of transphobia and homophobia, or we could go deeper, questioning why Rowling holds these beliefs and why she still thinks it's acceptable to share them. To an extent, Rowling is a product of her environment. Her opinions are shaped by her experience growing up as a cis white woman in the UK. As a TERF, a trans-exclusionary radical feminist, she has further surrounded herself with people that confirm her beliefs. She said she should undeniably still receive criticism for these problematic themes and opinions, but it is ineffective to cast the whole series aside, thus ignoring the reasons why society still supports people like her. When asked about the adverse public response to Rowling's comments, Adrienne Marie Brown, author of We Will Not Cancel Us, claims there's a difference between a call out versus call in. We pull ourselves into more interdependence, relationality. Is that relationality? Okay. And accountability. By getting to the source of our frustration, we can then realize why we don't agree with that artist and thus no longer want to engage with their work entirely or critically analyze it while consuming the artist's content. We need to examine our relationship with these artists to help differentiate between virtue signaling and honest issues with them. So this is the part that like I don't understand. Why do we need to examine our relationship with artists? Because no one really thought about that for the first 500 years that we were consuming content, right? I mean, like the last 500 years, I guess, not the first, but it's just something that we've just started to think about, and I don't like it. I just, it doesn't matter to me. We're taking all this time and effort to go back and fix problems, but that's stupid because that's history. Why are we trying to change history? Throughout all of history, whenever there was a problem, you learned about it. You didn't shuffle it under the rug, right? You learned about it, you adapted, and you changed. But you don't change the history because you can't change history. So to go back and, fix, and using that term generously, but if you go back and alter an author's work, you're not changing or fixing history. You're just sweeping it under the rug. You're hiding it. And I just don't understand why are we doing that? It doesn't make any sense. If we're going to fix or try and change history, then why does it matter what anyone does now? Right? So, and this is going to sound a little offensive, but bear with me for a second. Why are we going to call out Rowling or any other big figure for behavior you may not agree with, or maybe you disagree with, right? And why are we calling them out then if we're just going to go back and fix everything? It doesn't make sense to me. Now, society has always grown based on the behaviors of people around them that people didn't agree with. So early on, you had a lot of church and religious arguments, or control rather. And if you were a scientist, you were persecuted in ways that were not great. But they changed thought as we progressed, right? So by progressing and learning from people, Nazis, right? They used to be in control, and obviously their view is terrible. But we learned from them. We changed how we acted because of them. We didn't go back in the history books and say all Nazis were great people and this is why, and change the language they used, right? So I just think it's weird that we're doing that with books. And I'm of the opinion that you should be able to put whatever opinion you want out there. You should have whatever views you want, and that shouldn't be as much of a problem as it's becoming. And the reason why is because, like I said, historically, you learn from these bad opinions. You change behaviors based off of these opinions. So to try and censor and streamline society into one road, it's not helpful, I don't think. All right, what do we got here? Welcome to the live stream, by the way. It's Friday, so I wasn't really expecting too many people, and you are like the second. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. It happened. Acknowledge it with its good and bad. Learn from it and improve. And then not going to hate Harry Potter because Rowling's views differ from my own. Yeah, that's how I feel too. I just don't understand why someone has a bad take and now we got to hate it. Now, Rowling specifically is kind of a funny example because so many people are so quick to jump down anyone's throat or whatever when they mention loving Harry Potter because Rowling is such an evil person. She's causing all these problems. I don't want to get into a debate over whether or not Rowling is right or wrong here, but I can't believe that people are that upset by her. And then at the same time, they're consuming all this other content by the worst people, right? Like video game companies. There are companies that do terrible things. So I'm not going to play Hogwarts Legacy because it's bigoted, but I am going to play, I don't know, an equivalent example off the top of my head, a Blizzard game maybe, because, all the sexual assault and issues that they had. Pretty gross. Or there was controversy over Russian companies because of what's going on there. Although I will also argue that that's really unfair because that would be like, I don't know, people in Iran boycotting an American company for Americans invading. But like, again, they didn't have any say in what we did. So that's my 2 cents on that aspect. So let's get back to the article here. Where were we? Right here, I think. So additionally, scholar Amy Hungerford argues that people must think critically about the work they consume to engage with it better. One must decide without reading a work whether it is worth the time to read it or not. A decision not to read must be defended and received based on this different standard of evidence. I personally refuse to watch Woody Allen's films as I am so disturbed by his actions that I don't want to see him on screen after learning of his history of sexual abuse. I cannot separate him from his art and refuse to attempt to. However, I still recognize his films' impact on the film industry and Hollywood altogether. I'll still watch movies that Harvey Weinstein produced. It is reasonable to consider whose work of art you engage with, but it's more important to interrogate why you're engaging with it. See, again, I find that very hypocritical. You're going to not watch Woody Allen films, but you're admitting to watching Harvey Weinstein. People have different morals, and what affects one might, they might be affected differently by something. And maybe it is just the visual, seeing the actor. And if that's true, then fine, I'll give them a pass. But if it's just because they're valuing Woody Allen's crimes more or worse than Harvey Weinstein's, I think that's kind of hypocritical in a way. I think that, like, yeah, maybe one might be a little more disgusting than the other when you're talking about like ranking the crimes, but they're still both terrible. I don't think that we should endorse either of them personally, but it's so hard not to because they've touched so many things, and that might be a very bad like word to use there. So my mistake. But let's just finish this off real quick. For example, many people have a deep personal connection to Kanye's music. It was only until his recent anti-Semitic and anti-Black comments and threats that people started to reevaluate their relationship with his art. My suggestion is that those people continue to simultaneously acknowledge the effect that his music has had on their life, as well as how his behavior shapes his music. People shouldn't be deprived of things they cherish and value because the creator was offensive and awful. Situations differ depending on when the artist entered one's life, and if that artist is currently successful and prominent in our society. It's also productive to evaluate why Kanye is still thriving and why he is still speaking out about these subjects despite receiving extreme backlash. Ultimately, separating the art from the artist is possible, but nowhere near as worthwhile as evaluating the source of these artists' controversial views. Getting to the origin and assessing what environmental factors foster such vicious and corrupt people will help us thus work to create a superior, inclusive society solving these issues. So I see that the article's aim is noble, but to say that separating the art from the artist is nowhere near as worthwhile to me is a bit disingenuous, because while if you have that morality and you want to do that, that's great. Some of us just want to sit back, relax, enjoy some things when we're not working and not worry about who made them, right? Think about that. If you really believe that you need to separate art from artist, you have to do so much work for anything you touch. And then where's the line between art and not art? So again, we'll bring up this book. This is a book. It's art. An artist created it. Let's pretend, again, I don't have anything bad to say about Robin Hobb, but let's pretend that Robin Hobb is a terrible person. So then we all agree that because we're separating art from artist, we're not going to read this book anymore. Okay, fair. But if we are going to be separating art from artist from every artist, then do we consider this is a KFC pop? Now, typically, toys aren't necessarily considered art, I don't think. But what if the person that owned the pop company is also, I don't know, Kanye West? Then do we stop supporting? Now, again, I'm not really a big pop guy, but do we, I don't know. Do we then stop buying those? Now, I think you should probably not buy them to begin with because they're kind of expensive plastic. But the point is, if we're going to do it with books, should we do it with toys? Should we do it with games? How many people have to be bad that worked on a project to then not do it? Is it just one? With books, it seems to be. That's just the artist, right? The author. But again, what if not even? What if on the publishing company? What if there was not even the CEO? What if there was just a guy, a formatter, and he, I don't know, tortured animals or something? Like, then do you not read the book? Like, I just think that we're getting too far in the weeds into worrying about what the artist is doing. Now, some people will say that, well, Rowling is really public, and so it's different because she's, I don't know, louder. And while that's kind of true, if you're not paying attention on social media, like if you're not on Twitter, a lot of people don't really know about it, right? And I just don't think that we should be attacking people who are just enjoying something they like simply because you disagree with what they're saying. Again, history has shown that society will naturally fight against people who say things that are wrong, that we don't agree with, that are bad. And then we learn from that and we remember it. And we keep, the reason we're worried about all of this inclusivity and stuff, in my opinion, now this is just from my time in school and my perspective. And so there's zero fact here. And I'm sure I'm wrong and people will be able to correct me with actual facts. But we grew up learning about all of the Black oppression. So slavery, we learned about all of that. And we kind of learned about how they were slowly allowed in, at first it started with changing where they could sit, or I don't know the exact order, but then it progressed, and then now we can share bathrooms with them, and then it progressed, and now they have the right to I don't know, vote, I think, but I don't know, again, I don't know the order of which this went, but I'm just saying that there was a slow progression, and then eventually, right, we got to the equal rights movement and JFK and all of that good stuff. And then Lyndon B. Johnson that signed it? I don't remember. Speaking historically off my head is not good when I haven't actually thought about this stuff for a while. But anyway, you get the point. We have documented history of, and this goes far before Black history. There's the whole religious oppression and all of that. But for modern society, I think that the Black movement, equal rights, I think that really kind of, and learning about that is what has kind of propelled other groups to be like, look, you did this with this community. Now we need to do this with everyone. And I agree with that. But to get there, you don't just go around silencing everyone that disagrees with things, because you create a very stale, a very, I don't know, a one-way of thinking. If we started out in this world with one way of thinking, we would still all be under the Catholic Church, right? Now, actually, it probably goes before then, but that's just an example, is when, Europe was basically ruled by the church. And if that influence had spread everywhere, then, and the scientists and the, free thinkers or whatever weren't able to put out opinions that were derided and hated by everyone, then nothing would have changed. And that's what I argue for, is that I personally, and I know this is a huge hot take, but personally, I think that even the worst opinions should be out there without, massive, like everyone just jumping. I get it. If you don't like someone's opinion, especially if it's really, bad and harmful and insulting, then you're going to have that knee-jerk reaction to go after them and, cancel them or whatever, call for them to be fired and all that. But I just think that we've gotten to a point where we're so focused on protecting a narrative that we're now jumping down anyone who doesn't agree's throats. And by doing that, I think we're really hurting the natural progression of society. Personally, I just think that dissenting opinions have always been super important, even if in the moment they're super harmful. And again, there's a lot of super harmful opinions that turn out just to be super harmful. It doesn't actually enact change, but some have. And so that's why I'm a strong advocate for just, letting it progress in the natural way. Let people have their opinions. Let debates take place. Let's just keep things cool. Anyway, I think that's about it. It's been an interesting conversation. I probably said some things that people disagree with. I probably misspoke once or twice. I don't know. I wish, I shouldn't have done this on Friday, because Friday is a hard night, it seems, to attract many viewers. And so I couldn't clarify anything if I was confusing to anyone. And so for that, I apologize. But I just wanted to talk about separating the art from the artist, celebrating 100 subscribers, and also just kind of hang out here for a while. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night.